This camera shouldn't be as popular as it is, but I know why.
So I'm currently headed to a music event Fujifilm are putting on tonight. They said, hey, come down, take a few photos on the X100VI. But the thing is, I've already had it for a few weeks, so I figured on my way there, I'll tell you a little bit about what I think. But first, I want you to cast your mind back to 2018.
That was the first year I felt like I was finally doing all right. Years of struggling to make it as a photographer and video creator were finally paying off. And to celebrate, I purchased the 4th generation and year-old at the time, X100F for $1,600.
$1,600 for this. It's a lot of money, but I like the concept, so I bought it as a little treat.
Fast forward 6 years and the 6th generation, the X100VI, costs nearly double that, $2,800. It's not like it's changed all that much over those 6 years either. The retro-inspired body has, for the most part, remained strikingly similar since the original X100 back in 2011. Compact and pocketable, for those with big pockets, it features a fixed 23mm lens or 35mm equivalent. Fujifilm's iconic manual dials adorn the top, a small flash sits just above the lens, and there are plenty of programmable wheels and dials to let you shoot just how you like. The right-hand grip is small and just slightly raised to keep it compact, but because this is so light, it still feels like enough to hold on to. As of last generation, the rear OLED touchscreen can tilt up, which is much appreciated for low-to-the-ground shots. It's a fantastic display too, with a mostly great touch response, unlocking a few extra control inputs or touch to focus should you need it. Unique to the X100 line is the hybrid rangefinder, which allows you to preview your files through an electronic viewfinder, or if you flick the switch, a pretty nifty optical viewfinder with a digital readout. This was actually one of the features that originally led me to buy the X100F. As mirrorless cameras were taking over, I kind of wanted to get back to rangefinder style shooting while still having the latest tech. But 6 years on, I'm totally sold on AVFs, and rarely find myself switching to the optical viewfinder here, as cool as it is. Also unique compared to other Fujifilm cameras is a built-in 3-stop ND filter for quickly lowering your exposure. It's much appreciated in bright situations, especially if you want to open up the aperture. However, it's partly there to offset the max shutter speed of 1/4000 at f4. If you're below that, the max shutter speed drops as well, with f2 maxing out at 2000.
So it's clearly not the body that's making this so much more expensive. This hasn't really changed in years, and frankly, it doesn't need to. It is, mwah, chef's kiss. Inside is a different story though. That has had a huge upgrade this year.
Okay, now we're talking. The X100 range tends to use the same sensor and processor found in other current gen X series cameras. So with this, we're getting access to the X Processor 5 and the CMOS 5 HR sensor. The X processor essentially equips the 6 with everything you'd find in the flagship XT5. That includes AI autofocus modes, improved autofocus overall, and better battery efficiency. That last point's handy because this still uses the same batteries as last gen. The other cameras with this processor have a bit more space, so get beefier batteries. All of these features make it feel incredibly capable and as smooth to operate as any professional camera. It really makes this perfect for its primary use case of street photography. Pop up, lock focus, snap. Of course, the other big software feature that is a huge drawcard for many is film simulations. This comes with 3 new ones compared to the X100V, 2 of which I absolutely adore and have been using on the XH2 ever since it released. Real Ace and Nostalgic Neg. I love them both. Now, film simulations and programming your own can be found in pretty much every Fujifilm camera now, although the newer they are, the more sims they tend to have. But I think it's particularly appealing in the X100 line due to the retro point-and-shoot nature of this camera. I gotta admit, mimicking a film-like experience with this is a lot of fun. Now it also comes with the 40.2 megapixel 5HR sensor. The images it creates are huge, so you can really crop in and frame your photos however you like. And if you're just posting your photos digitally, you can zoom in considerably before losing much detail. That said, I kind of feel like I got this already with the X100F's 24.3 megapixel sensor. 90% of the time, that would allow me to crop close enough to what I wanted anyway. The 5HR basically gets there 100% of the time, so I can see the appeal. I will also add, you can get attachable lens converters if you really want to get closer to things, but they retail for $450. At that point, why not just buy an interchangeable lens camera?
All right, now it's time to really put this camera through its paces and brush my hair. I'm at Mission to Seafarers, who are hosting the collaboration between Fujifilm and the musician Cap Carter. Cap Carter's just gonna write some music with his band, and I'm gonna take some photos with a bunch of other Fujifilm people. Sounds like a lot of fun. It's just about to start. Let's see how we go.
Let's just hope I can find focus better than I did with this shot. It's pretty dark in here, so the image is noisy at the higher end of 6400 ISO, but it's certainly not ruining the image for me. It also meant stopping up a fair bit to let light in, but thanks to the 5-axis in-body image stabilization, I get the shutter speed down to as low as 1/40. I was doing this on the walk over, and as you can see, it's quite stable indeed. Subject detection autofocus really comes in handy here too, snapping focus to the musicians with ease. While this isn't by any means marketed as a video camera, the video specs in this thing also match the X-T5 with up to 6.2K recording. It can record in F-Log2, it even integrates with Adobe's Frame IO if you'd like to upload to the cloud as you shoot. It's fantastic for video. Again, in this footage, you can see the IBIS at work doing a pretty great job of stabilizing. I record most of my videos on the Fujifilm X-H2 these days, and I feel right at home here. It's nice to know if you've got this and you decide you want some nice video, it can do that for you. Now, this focal length isn't typically what I would bring to a gig, it simply doesn't get close enough, but I had a few moments to get close to the stage and still ended up with many shots I liked. The high megapixel count definitely helps me zoom in when I'm further away.
So that was the gig. I had an awesome time. I'm very keen to see how the footage comes out from those epic GFX rigs. By the way, the camera ran out of battery around just towards the end of the event. So I guess that's your answer for battery life. Lasts for about a 3-hour gig plus an afternoon of some light shooting around the city. It's fine. It's totally fine. But yeah, for now, it has been a very long day. So yeah, I'm gonna go recharge my batteries.
Overall, I'm not surprised at the quality from the processor and sensor. We saw it in the X-T5 and the X-H2, both of which are reviewed, one of which I bought while still holding the review unit. That's how much I liked it. But those cameras launched at a very similar price to their predecessors. So, back to my original question. Why has this received such a massive price bump? What causes anything these days?
At this point, everyone needs this camera.
Fujifilm X100VI is an actual cheat code.
The Fuji X100VI is one of the best pieces of tech I've ever owned.
Everyone on TikTok is talking about this camera.
Yes, social media went nuts for the last generation, the X100V, so much so that a couple of years after release, it made the 5 almost impossible to find, driving the price up in the process. You know that feeling when you knew something was cool before it was cool? Yeah. That. I think back to when I bought the X100F. Having this slung around my shoulder that both looked really nice and just happened to take fantastic photos was genuinely awesome. Camera nerds and the camera curious would actually come up to me and strike up conversations, often mistaking it for a film camera. It made me feel cool. What can I say? I get the exact same feeling with the X100VI, except now a lot more people know about it. But I was saying this to Chris, and she made a pretty good point. This all makes it sound like jewelry, a status item. From that perspective, I don't blame Fujifilm for pricing it as such. It's trendy to own one of these, supply and demand, right? But it's also overhyped, and not because it's a bad camera. In fact, it's the perfect product. I think it's fantastic. It's just so fun to shoot on one of these. It's just that if you're looking for the Fujifilm experience this promises, many of their cheaper or older models can provide that. And hey, you can even swap the lenses if you get sick of 23mm. One such camera is the Fujifilm XS20, which I actually reviewed last year and really liked. You can now find it for under $2,000, which I think is a great price for it. So if you're interested, check out my review on that. Hit subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and yeah, I'll see you over there.